Hello and welcome to a special episode of my podcast all about knitting and crochet and my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko.
And I'm Joschko.
And today is December 20th, 2023, but this video will only be available on December 25th on Christmas Day, when I will take a day off from recording, and that's why we pre-record this now, so you can have a video next Monday. On the German channel, we've done this 3 times before, and this is the first year that we're doing a sisters special in English, and we'll see how it works out, and I hope you'll enjoy it. And as with my usual videos, we'll start with what we're wearing. Oh, by the way, the reason we thought of doing a video like that is that we often use the same pattern or try to do things that are sort of similar.
Or use the same yarn.
Yeah, or the same pattern, whatever. And then often the things end up looking quite differently. And we thought that might be interesting for viewers to see. And it's also always interesting, I think, to see how the same pattern can look different with different yarns, or the yarn can look differently with different patterns and things like that. And you've heard of my sister a lot in my videos because I sometimes knit for her. I sometimes wear things that she's knit for me. And so you know that I have a sister, and now you have the proof. Okay, and we start with the accessory as usual. And we're both wearing a loop scarf or cowl. And the difference with this project to most of the other projects is that I didn't knit them. I did not knit mine, but Joschko knit both of them.
And I really enjoyed doing it. It's due to the pattern, right?
So we started off with this colorful yarn, which is a Noro yarn that I think, we can't remember who bought it and where we bought it, but we had this beautiful Noro yarn and we're looking for a pattern. And I think we used a second color because we didn't know how far the yarn would go. So I found this pattern in one of my Noro knitting books. And I really like the pattern. I love the way it looks. I just don't enjoy knitting it at all. So I showed her the pattern. I said, I like it. I don't want to do it. And then she said, I'll knit both of them because she doesn't mind knitting into 5 stitches at the same time, several times.
You knit, what's the difference?
I knit very tightly, and she's a loose knitter. And if you knit loosely, it's easier to get into several stitches at the same time. And so she had no problem doing both the cowls for both of us. The solid color yarn is Hansa Farm, a pure alpaca yarn, bulky weight, so that went nicely with the Noro yarn that we had.
And I use black as always.
Yeah, and I use the dark blue, which goes really nicely with this.
And I really enjoyed doing it, and it's quite long, I think. And we still had left over, so how do you say that?
You designed the wrist warmers.
Wrist warmers, yeah. I enjoyed that too.
So it's basically the same pattern, but with a change. So it comes out smaller.
Yeah, because they are smaller. I didn't want to make the same big stars. I wanted to have them smaller. And then, therefore, I just used like 3 stitches instead of 5 for the pattern. And yeah, that's how they turned out. And I'm really happy with them.
Yeah, so these were designed by her with a thumb holes, very practical. And we seem to have had quite a lot of yarn because they are fairly long as well. They're not just little wrist warmers.
I really used the yarn up with them.
Probably did, yeah. So these are quite close in look. It's just a different color, but it's the same material, same pattern, everything, and you knit everything. So I was very lucky there.
But you helped me, as always.
Yeah, not a lot with that one. Then the next project that we're going to show are these cardigans that we're wearing. And there we use the same yarn, which is Letlopi and Alafoslopi. One of them is a bulky weight Icelandic yarn, and the other one is more like a worsted weight yarn. But if you use 2 strands of the thinner yarn together, then you get the same thickness as the thick yarn. So the fun thing about this pattern for me was that for the colorful yarn, you use different colors held together, so you get lots and lots of different shades of yarn. And my main color, or both our main colors, black, is the thick yarn, the big yarn, and for me the red and the blue are also the big yarn, which is why it's a solid color. But everywhere else, I'm always holding 2 strands of different colored yarns together. And Yeah, and I think we bought the yarn together. No, when I first ordered the yarn, we both wanted to knit this pattern. I wanted to use more or less the colors that were in the pattern, and you chose completely different colors.
Yeah, fitting to my
Style.
Yeah.
And aesthetic. And then they lost the order. We never got the yarn that we ordered that year. So the next year I went and I ordered the yarn again. I paid for it to make sure they have to send it to me. And then you decided not to go along. But once I'd finished my cardigan and I had lots of leftover yarn, and you really liked my jacket in a way. And then I think you bought some of the colors you bought afterwards, and we bought more of the black yarn.
Yes, and I knew I wanted to have such a cardigan, but I didn't want to have the same pattern Kiko had, and that's why I chose different ones. And I started out with wanting to have spirals because that was a theme in my artwork. And I had started going quite far, but it didn't work out the way I wanted to, and it was really hard work. And it didn't fit. I think the measures were wrong. That's why I started, went back to here, I think, and then I decided, well, I make it a bit easier for myself, and for the big bark, I only make these small little dots, and they still make it a bit warmer than with only one thread. And yeah, I'm really happy how it turned out. This part is a bit too long, so it's not too comfortable wearing it, but I still love it. And I chose zipper.
I hate sewing in zippers, so I never do zippers with my knitwear.
Yeah, but it's so convenient to wear.
Yeah, well, one of the things I like about buttons is that I can choose to just close two and I keep the others open. And you can do that with a two-way zipper, but then that's even more complicated, I think, to sew in. So I'm a big fan of buttons. And so both the cardigans were knit in the round. They looked like pullovers, and then I cut them open. I steeked them. And yeah, and then we folded it just over.
She did that.
And then I crocheted an edge on mine. And I think you just sewed in the zipper, right?
Yes.
Or did you crochet something?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. And I crocheted the edge, and then on the one side I just crocheted in some buttonholes, just very simple with some chain stitches. And the funny thing is, when I bought the buttons, I couldn't decide on a color. Maybe that was a problem, or the problem was they didn't have enough of one color. So I decided to do different colors, and then they had one color less than I had buttonholes. So I decided maybe I'll get a different button later for down here, and I never got around to doing that. So that's why it has 4 buttons, but it has 5 buttonholes.
You bought these buttons for this cardigan?
Yes.
Okay.
I think after I'd finished it. And yeah, but it's not very obvious that there's a buttonhole that I'm not using, and I don't have to have it closed down to the very bottom of the cardigan. Yeah, and then we'll take that off. We have one more layer. I usually show 2 things that I'm wearing, but today we just really bundled up as if it was icy cold in here. It's fairly cold, but not that cold. Yeah, so these pullovers, the pattern is called Pappus, and it's by a Japanese designer. I forgot her name, but one of the clever things about this pullover is that you can start knitting, and you can knit with the same yarn if it's long enough, and never cut it, never pick a new something, and you can just knit this in one thing. There's no seam to sew, and it's a very clever construction. You start with a provisional cast on underneath the arms and in the middle of the back, then you knit up. You do the neckline in one row, which is very clever. You go down.
But in a way that is different, the back and the front. That's what I like very much about it.
Yeah, the back is a lot tighter and the front is a lot looser. So you get a nice neckline to the front and it doesn't choke you. And then you knit the sleeves together, and then you pick up the stitches and you knit in the round, you knit down. And the original pattern has a short sleeve and a 3/4 sleeve version, I think, and I chose to cast on more stitches, hoping it would be a long sleeve, which quite worked out. In the beginning it was a bit less than a full sleeve, but I think it's grown just this tiny bit to give me long sleeves. And you wanted even longer sleeves.
Yes, because I
you have
really
longer
like them.
arms.
Yeah, and I like them really long, to have them on my hands practically. And I chose this kind of yarn.
I'll talk about that in a minute.
Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to keep saying. I just wanted to show that she chose a fairly short version, and I think that's in the pattern. I think the pattern is more of a boxy style pullover.
Also very simple with no extra cuffs or anything.
That's not in the pattern.
Yeah.
So that's your version. I did the sleeve. I did that as in the pattern, but I chose to have a longer pullover. So my pullover goes till here, and I chose to do it's not a ribbing, it's a garter edge that I did with one slit on one side because I didn't want to knit the garter in the round and I didn't want to sew it together. So I chose to do the pullover longer, and that's already shows the differences that we do. So we have different length sleeves. I have the ribbing, she doesn't. I have that and she doesn't. Hers is short, mine is long. So that's sort of
typical for us.
Yes. And now to the yarn that we used. Your main yarn was a hand painted yarn by Hansa Farm, which was a lace weight yarn. And I'm just not 100% sure whether it's alpaca or merino. I think it's alpaca. It's probably alpaca if it's Hansa Farm. And then the mohair yarn is a mohair silk yarn by Hansa Farm. My main color is a Noro yarn. It's Noro Seku lace yarn. And that was, I think, the main reason I wanted to knit this pattern, because I had this one ball of Noro lace yarn that was 100 gram and 800 meters. And I knew that would be enough for me to knit a whole pullover if I use the mohair silk yarn together and have a big needle. And it worked out. And at first I wanted to use up the whole yarn, and I didn't. Even though this is such a long pullover, it would have turned into a dress if I had used up the yarn, and that didn't work for me with the shape the pullover was having. So at some point I stopped knitting. I still have the leftover yarn. And your skein was also 100 grams and 800 meters, so we knew that would work out to knit the same thing. When we started, I didn't know how short she wanted to do the pullover, so she has quite a bit of yarn left over.
I could make a loop out of the rest, couldn't I?
Cowl, yeah, with a mohair.
cowl.
Perfect, yeah. And the interesting thing is I had 2 skeins of this hand-painted yarn in the pink colors. And so I still have the second one. And my plan is to knit the pullover again and use also a pink mohair silk yarn, but in a slightly different shade. My pink is a bit lighter, so my whole pullover is going to be a bit lighter, but it'll be almost the same, which is very interesting.
Yes, and so this might show up again at some time.
If we do another sister video in English, but I think we might. Yeah. Okay, so now we've shown everything that we were wearing, and we can put some things on again if we want to.
Yeah, I'll wait another
Okay,
moment.
I'll just put that on. Okay, so now the next point in my videos usually are the finished objects, and we actually have 2 projects that we have both finished that we're going to show now, and then we'll have quite a few projects where one of us is finished and the other one isn't. But we'll talk about that later. So the first finished object for today is the Pierre Shaw by Stephen West. Thank you. And that was actually a project that was prompted by one of our friends who bought the pattern and asked us if we wanted to knit along. And then we did this tiny mini knit along with 3 people. And I decided to use this hand-painted yarn by Wolldackel. I had 2 colors, the light one with the light speckles, and then the dark one with the sort of the same speckles. And the pattern is written for 4 colors, I think. And I used 2 colors. Joshko used 4 colors, and our friend used 7 colors. So yeah, you don't always have to do what the pattern says.
Yeah, and mine is a very colorful gray hues.
So this is again Hansa Farm yarn. This is pure baby alpaca DK weight in their different gray shades plus black. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're using 5 colors. Maybe the pattern was written for 5 colors. I'm not quite sure. But the black and the like charcoal color, there's hardly a difference. Yeah. But I love the fact that they have so many great colors. You can do so many nice things.
And I love the shawl altogether because it's so soft and warm, and it's so versatile, and it has a wonderful size, goes up almost all the back, and the shape of it makes it that this part here goes doesn't fall from the shoulders. I don't know how to.
The fronts fall forward very nicely because of the many increases that you do at the sides. And it's not like a half circle with a straight edge that tends to sort of fall off the shoulders, but it has
you can
this,
see that well.
this round shaping that makes it more rounded, and then the pieces just stay on your shoulders, and the front pieces, they just stay in the front. And I also like the way they sort of circle round. The tips always sort of go like this. I really like that. Yeah, so that was a very enjoyable project. And the next one that we have both finished is the Hexagon cardigan, crochet cardigan that I did as a crochet along on my channel. Was it the first crochet along or the second? I don't know. But I came across this pattern that I had wanted to do for many years, and there was a free pattern on the hobby website. And then I decided to do that. I did a little instructional video how to crochet this cardigan. I used 2 different colors, opal sock yarn DK weight. I used this red with the blue for the first hexagon, and then when the sleeve was wide enough, I changed to the blue with the red opal sock yarn. This side has a pocket, the other one doesn't. And then when I lengthened the sleeves, I used up the bit of red that I had and then finished off in the blue. I'm really happy with this cardigan. I put some red buttons just because I had them. Didn't buy them specially for the cardigan. Yeah, and my sister sometimes takes part in my knit-alongs and crochet-alongs. Sometimes she doesn't, but I think the last year you sort of discovered crochet for yourself.
Yes.
And so you decided to take part.
But I wanted to do a summer version with the Catania cotton yarn. And that's why it's short. Everywhere it's short. The sleeves are short and the cardigan itself is rather short. And I really love the process. I really love crocheting this yarn. It comes out so beautiful. But then afterwards I realized I've got another summer cardigan in light gray. And that one is knitted and so much lighter still that I ended up not really wearing this one. And that's why I decided, even though it's finished, I will start again and I will probably
not start again, but you'll keep working on it.
Oh, okay. I will keep working on it.
If you start again, sounds like you were going to do another one.
No, or unravel this
Yeah,
one.
no, don't do that.
No, I will make long sleeves and probably
Lengthen.
Oh, okay. I will
Lengthen the front and back?
Yes. And I don't know if I will do something in the front too.
Yeah, maybe have like a shawl collar. That'd be really nice if you crocheted around, and then the fronts would sort of grow,
great.
and then you could have sort of a little shawl
Yeah,
collar.
might do that. Yeah, I haven't decided yet.
It's going back into the work in progress pile.
Yes.
Yeah, talking about works in progress, the next project that we have, that's one that's a work in progress for both of us. Mine's fairly new, yours is fairly old. So I think you can start with yours.
And this is a beautiful, beautiful cowl. Cowl is the right word. And with a wonderful yarn. It's called unicorn in German.
The colorway is called Unicorn. It's hand painted by Wolldackel.
And it's a beautiful pattern I chose. Kiko's told me how many stitches to do. And I'm knitting it on this with this side out, and probably will be wearing this the other way around. It's a bit less colorful then. And
Is it possible this is your first double knit project?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I tried a few coasters just to get used to it. But
yeah, that's what I did. I knit several swatches in double knit with different patterns just to get the hang of the technique.
And I think it's already a few years that I knitted the bulk of it, and I never finished it because I wasn't sure whether or not to have a fourth round of this pattern
repeat.
Yeah, but now I decided it's enough because
So
I really want to have
pattern-
it finished.
She chose the pattern from a book with just a pattern collection. So there is no real pattern for the cowl itself. It's just that she chose this pattern. And and I had never done a proper double knit project.
I mean, you only learned how to do it so you could tell me.
In a way, and because I wanted to know how it works. So, but then some weeks ago, I finally started my own double knit project. And if you watch my normal podcast episodes, you will have seen it. That's the Remember Cowl by Nathan Taylor, who's known as a sockomatician. And it's this beautiful black and red cowl that is black on one side with red poppies. That's the word I couldn't remember 2 days ago. And then the other side is red with black flowers. And from this project, I took the number of stitches that I suggest that she use. And 2 days ago in my normal episode, I showed you how much I'd done till then, but then I made sure to knit some more Monday night and yesterday, so I could show a little change today. And I made sure that the first flower was finished. So this is the first small flower. There'll be some big ones as well. And I put beads on the contrast color stitches in the middle of the flower. And I love the way it looks. I especially love this side, even though I first thought these beads would be too big. But now I think they're perfect. I'm just too lazy to go back and choose bigger ones for these because I don't think they're bad. And
I think they look so great.
Yeah, and because I have beads on both sides of the fabric, they don't have to be bigger than that. But this is a small flower, and then the big flowers, they have more beads or more contrast color stitches in the middle. And they're supposed to be knit in reverse stockinette stitch. So you have like these tiny pearl bumps in the middle of the flower, which I think is a fantastic idea. But I just prefer the idea with the beads. So I decided to do the beads there as well. Oh, by the way, with the little flowers, they're supposed to be nubs. They're not reverse stockinette, but little nubs. And some flowers have little nubs and some flowers have big nubs. And then the huge flowers have the reverse stockinette. So it's a very interesting pattern. But as I said...
Sounds complicated.
I love that.
Yeah, too complicated for me.
I'm going to do the beads everywhere, but with the big flowers, there are up to, I think, 15 stitches in the middle of the flower, and that would have been 15 beads one side, 15 beads the other side, and that would have been too heavy and probably too much.
Yeah.
So I've decided to do every other stitch in those flowers. So now the first stitch I did on both sides, and then here is one bead in the middle, and the next round I'll do one left and one right and no in the middle, and this is the other way around. So the first stitch is on both sides, but then now I'm going to take turns, one bead on this side and then so on. You know what I mean? And so far I really like it. I would have liked to finish the middle of it, but it's too many stitches for that. Couldn't do that in just one day. Yeah, next time. I'm pretty sure this is going to be finished. If you want to see the finished project earlier than next year or end of next year, it'll take until next year to finish this, but hopefully before December. Yeah, I think I didn't mention this is the Alpaka silk by Hansa Farm. So this is the Hansa Farm section of our episode. Yeah, but just love the yarn. Okay, next project on the needle for some of us, for one of us, is the POA Hat out of the book Turtle and Moon, or Moon and Turtle.
Sisters book,
Yeah, it's a twins book.
Yeah, that's why you asked me to knit.
Yeah. I think these are Japanese descended girls living in Canada or something like that. And they are twins, and they're both knitwear designers, and they are different. They design differently. And for that book, they decided to do designs together. So they come up with one idea, but then they do different variations. And that's basically what we do. We take patterns and then we do our variations. So we have to knit more from that book in the future.
Even though the difference is only the color.
In the color, yeah. It's fairly similar for us.
Yes.
Yeah. So we both use the hand-painted yarn by Wolldackel in their Aniva Niva rainbow colorway. I use the yellow, you use the black. And then we use the same color Mohair silk yarn by Hansa Farm. And it's a reversible hat. It's sort of like the hats that I'm knitting in my current knit-along. But with the current knit-along, we do the easy version where you just cast on all the stitches and then cinch them together and do the same at the end. But with this, you have decreases that you do on both sides. By the way,
I probably won't do decreases on this side. I will cinch it
together. Yeah. And I was just saying that these are not the decreases that are in the book.
Oh,
I didn't like the ones in the book, so I decided to do my own.
Especially with this. With these colors, with this yarn, it's so beautiful. I love it so much.
Yeah. I think yours is almost more beautiful than mine because with your black background, the colors they're so brilliant.
Vibrant,
But I do love my yellow hat. Not saying I don't like it. Yeah, so as you could see, mine is finished. You are
Halfway through.
not a lot more than halfway.
Halfway of the black part. Of the
Yeah, so
mohair
you're
part.
almost done.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to being, able to wear it one day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And,
might even make it in this winter still.
Oh, yeah, you definitely...
Yeah?
Winter only started, so
Yeah.
it's not as if winter
Oh,
was
that's
almost
not true,
over.
though.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, then the next project, that's a very interesting one as well, because it involves a very old project of mine and a fairly
what's the
new
next one.
project of yours. It's the waistcoat, is I think the English word, and I can't find mine. Where did I put it? It's here somewhere because we showed it on the German version already. Am I sitting on it? No. Oh, here we go. I've got it. So this is a project that I knit more than 10 years ago. I can't remember when I knit it. I can't remember why I knit it. Could have been a sample for the shop that I used to work for, but maybe it was something that I chose to do. I don't remember. But it has an interesting construction because you knit this band down here around your middle, you cast off, then I think I picked up stitches at the back, knit up, knit down the fronts, and then I must have sewn this together. Even though it doesn't have a proper seam, I probably did a fairly good job sewing that together.
As always.
And I loved the cables. It was just a lot of fun knitting that.
It's not the most typical color for you.
Not at all. I don't know why I chose it.
But I think that's one of the reasons why I got it in the end.
Yeah.
For the last years, it's been living in my place, and I love it very much. I'm not wearing it too much, but yeah, sometimes in summer when it's just a little cold, it's perfect. And then I think like 2 years ago, I bought this yarn, also Noro. I bought two balls of yarn, one for Kiko and one for myself. And we couldn't figure out what to do with it. And I think at one point, I think after I got to know this pattern, I don't know what's called in English. It's like, it looks like it's like a fork cable pattern.
Yeah,
not
with
real
a
one.
little bit of lace. Yeah, so it's a very interesting pattern that looks nice and it's quite easy to knit.
It's really easy to make and I love it. And I think I had the idea of using this vest as
like a template.
Yeah, and I had even thought of going the same way, doing this vertically, horizontally, and then this part vertically. But then I realized I didn't want the pattern to change directions, and that's why I decided, okay, I would just make it very, very simple. There's the back part, and then splitting up and going back in the front. And just using this as a rough reference, how many centimeters I need. And I hope it will turn out the way I imagined. We only realized that I probably have more yarn than I need. So either I will make another one for her, or you make it yourself. Or if I need more than half of it, if I need more than one yarn, I might end up I might end up doing sleeves and I have no idea how it will turn out.
But one of the differences also that this project shows is that I like to knit from a pattern. So there was a pattern that showed me how to do the cables, how to do the setup and everything. She did not have a pattern. She had this stitch pattern.
Yeah, I even don't like working from patterns.
Yeah. She keeps telling me I don't understand what they're saying. And then I read it to her and she says, okay, that's what I have to do. And I said, I just read it to you.
But it's also like I feel so restricted that I have to do what they say. And I really like just doing...
And that's what I like to tell people is you're not restricted. You don't have to do what they say. There's no knitting police. And you're free to change whatever you want. But what I'm trying to say is that I like to follow a pattern. She likes to make up her own patterns. So she will just think up something and then she'll knit it. And sometimes it's the way she imagined and she'll wear it until it dies. And sometimes it's not what she imagined and she'll just give it away.
Or sometimes I...
or you just rip it out.
Yeah,
you undo the whole thing. She's very...
I'm stubborn.
Yeah, but I would never do that. Well, I've done it on very rare occasions, but usually I'm too lazy to knit something again, and I will try to sort of change things midway, and I will try to fix it somehow, add something later. Sometimes I do give things away as well, but working from a pattern, I'm more on the safe side, and she experiments a lot more, and she makes a lot of people happy by giving them beautifully knit things that she's not happy with, but other people just
fit or something.
yeah, but other people are really happy with. So that's great.
Yeah, that's true.
So that was that. Then the next project is another crochet project, and that's the we are crocheting summer pullovers, and the starting point for that project was the yarn. It's a pure cotton yarn. It's called Diamant.
Black again, yeah.
What a surprise!
Yeah.
And I so rarely do something in blue. Anyway, I think this yarn's been discontinued, but back when I was still working at that shop, I bought 500 grams of the black and 500 grams of the blue, just thinking I'll be using it for something someday. And last year, I think I tend to, every year on New Year's Day, I like to go through my stash at home and just pull out everything that I have, make sure nothing is living inside there, making sure everything is good, remembering what I have. I never do that by myself. I usually have either my sister or a friend with me.
Always making these people happy.
Yes, I tend to give things away because I often remember why I bought things, but they just don't fit this time now, and I like giving things away. Sometimes I don't even remember why I have the yarn. Sometimes it's yarn that I was given, I never chose, and then I'm happy to pass it on to somebody who likes it. But with this yarn, I remember buying it. I remember wanting to make something with it. And then when we went through my stash last year, or beginning of this year, Yoshko had just discovered crochet for herself. She decided that
I knew how to do it for a long time, but I never did anything the recent years and decades.
And you tended to say that you don't enjoy it that much. Yeah. And then you learned how to do a granny square, and that
changed everything.
It changed everything. It was a game changer. Yeah, and now she wants to do granny squares for everything, and that's why she was prepared to do the hexagon cardigan, because it's a granny square. It's not a granny square. It's a granny hexagon. But so when we had this yarn, and Yoshko said, why don't we do a summer pullovers, and can I please do a granny square?
Yes.
And I had
crazy big granny square. I've got one bigger one already done for the back, but I couldn't find it. So this is for the front part, and it's just one big granny square. And I really love doing it, even though it's black. Usually I don't like working with black too much, even though I like wearing it.
And the interesting thing is that I enjoy making granny squares, even though they're fairly boring, and I'm not into boring things. But for some reason, the granny square has an appeal even to me. But I like to do it in colorful yarns. If it's opal yarn, if it has lots of colors in it, I'll do simple granny squares all day long. But with a solid color yarn, no, thank you. But I wanted to do a partner look pullover, and I was prepared to crochet a square, just not a granny square. So I looked at my beautiful books by Shally Husband, and I picked up the Granny Square Patchwork book, and I picked this pattern. Yeah, if we hold it right, you can see it. Yeah. And I love it. It's a beautiful pattern. I added a few rounds at the end to get it to be big enough to work as a pullover front or back. And at first I thought I might do the same pattern for the front and back. But once I'd finished it, it was like, I know how to do this now. It's getting boring.
Everyone who knows Kiko knows that will not be
not be the case, yeah. So I picked a different pattern from the same book in the same size. And this is the wrong side. Let's show this one. And I picked this square. I love the pattern. And I got this far. And I thought I could start squaring it off. But no, I have to repeat this pattern. So I've done 3 repeats so far. I have to repeat it 2 more times. And then it'll be squared off, and then one of them will be the front, one of them will be the back, and I think it's something different for the sleeves.
And yeah, we'll probably do short sleeves, but not completely sure yet.
Yeah, we don't know. I do want to have some sort of sleeve, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a long sleeve. Yeah. It could be a 3/4 sleeve, could be a...
And I want to have a boxy kind of pullover again. And I could imagine just small...
short sleeves, yeah. And if your fronts and backs are bigger than mine, then even if you do a short sleeve, it'll be longer on your arm than just a little bit.
Okay.
And my squares are not quite as wide, so I could do a bit more sleeve. And then it also depends. I'm not quite sure whether I want to do 1 square for the sleeve and fold it in half, or whether I want to do like 2 small ones, 1 front, 1 back. And then I could do 4,
really?
So that it's twice as long as it's wide, something like that. And there's, for the second pattern that I chose, there are 2 different sizes in the same pattern. So the 3 squares belong together. You can make a blanket with those 3 different sizes squares in the same pattern. So fascinating.
So you could also do one sleeve like this pattern,
Yes.
and then the other one
Yes.
with 2. Yeah,
Other-
I'm so glad I don't have to do hers. Or
I love doing mine.
so crazy.
Okay, so that's that. Then the next project is another pullover, and that's again one that I have finished and you're still working on it, and that's the VBack Te. That's a very popular pattern on Ravelry. I've had the pattern for quite some time. There are several different VBack patterns that she's published. I think one is for DK weight and one is for leftover yarn or something. I have at least 2 of the patterns. I may have all 3, I don't know. But I started off with the proper, or with the original VBack pattern, and it's written for 1 to 5 colors. I chose to do 3 colors. You can see them better on the front and back. This is the first color. It's a light pink glitter sparkly yarn. Then it's the darker sparkly yarn, and then it's this dark gray and blue sparkly yarn, all sock yarn by Opal. And then this is supposed to be the back, which is why it's called a VBack Te. And then the interesting thing is you start off with the V-neck, but then you keep the V in your knitting until you hit the ribbing. And then you do short rows to get the other parts of the pullover down to the same level. And then you do the ribbing, and then you do the sleeves. With the sleeves, the VBack Te has short sleeves. So the sleeves are my sort of invention. I just did long sleeves, and at first I wasn't quite sure which colors to use, but then I just used up all the color 2 yarn I had, and then finished off with a color 3. I had thought of using color 1 again for the sleeves, but then decided against it. Really happy with my pullover.
I think it's really perfect the way you chose the colors for the sleeves too.
Thank you.
And I was quite intrigued by this pattern. And I had this yarn, also Opal Black Dragon, and I thought this is the perfect combination. And I, as always, changed something. I didn't want to have the ribbing. That's why I only have this.
It's like a rolled edge.
Yes, okay. And here is the V part. Yeah, if you can see it. And here's the back with a beautiful butterfly. And I'm still quite at the beginning because Kiko wasn't sure how it would turn out with her pullover because it's going a bit big on the sides, and I wasn't sure whether to change that. But now I decided I'd probably just finish the way it's supposed to be and have it a bit wider, boxy kind of. And I think I will enjoy it. And I really love this color combination. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, so the Black Dragon series by Opal has this black yarn running throughout the yarn, but the black yarn itself is getting bigger and smaller, so that's interesting. And then you have several other colors that are mixed in with the black. And Joshua loved the color the moment she saw it. And the plan for the pullover now really is for you to try mine on.
Yes.
And then we can see how it sits on you, how
That's
you
why
like
I waited,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, and then you can decide what to change because she likes changing patterns.
Yes, and
which
that's
is good idea, which is good. You should always change patterns so that you like them and they fit you.
And if you have somebody who is going first, you always have the advantage of being able to change what you don't like.
Yeah, that's true.
Like with the next one.
Yeah. Oh, with the next one, yeah. The next one's another pullover. That's a summer pullover. And that, again, started with the yarn. I went to a yarn festival in Düsseldorf. I forgot whether it was this year or last year.
I think it was last year.
And I think it was just this year, but we don't know. Anyway, I saw this yarn, and this is a mix of wool, cotton, and silk. And Joshua loves anything that has silk in it. And I am a big fan of silk as well. And I love the fact that they had our favorite colors, just like in this same yarn. Yeah, I love this color. So it's just, I just couldn't leave it there. I had to take it. And it's 100 gram balls with 700 meters yardage. It always feels weird to say yardage when I say meters, but you know what I mean. It's 700 meters for 100 grams. And at first I thought we'd be knitting a shawl of some kind and was looking for a pattern. But then I remembered this pattern that a friend of mine had knitted, and I loved it so much that I bought the pattern straight away and then never used it. And then now it seemed to be the perfect match to use this yarn with this pattern, which is quite a lot of pattern, but it's only in the yoke. And then the rest of the pullover is very simple. And I've finished the yoke, I've done the short rows, and I've just finished knitting the ribbing on my sleeves, so very short sleeves, but it's a light summer pullover. And we want to do the whole pullover with those 700 meters, so no long sleeves. And now I can just go down and knit stockinette stitch until I want to do the lower ribbing. And I still have no idea how long the pullover is going to be, but I think the next thing I'll do is sit down and weigh the yarn and see how much yarn I need per round, so I know when to start the ribbing. But technically I could then start calculating how many rows there's still in the ball and how long this is going to be. So we'll see. But first yours.
Yeah, but and I changed something again because hers starts with this first part. And I didn't like it too much. I mean, now I find it beautiful, but also it was quite close to your neck.
In the pattern, it's quite a small neckline.
Yes.
Mine turned out to be a bit bigger.
And now mine will be even more, even bigger because I just...
Yeah, she emitted the first chart, which went from here to here, and she sort of started with this bit of pattern. And then there are 2 more charts to do, so it's not like she didn't have any pattern to knit.
Yeah, and I also kind of like the way this is a bit simpler because...
A bit straighter, not
the straight. I like it when it's wavy, but with these first rows, I think it looks like kind of thicker, if it makes any sense.
Yeah. The garter stitch bit.
Yeah.
Garter stitch is always a bit thicker.
Yeah, this looks just a little bit more delicate, I think.
Yeah.
I hope it will also come out a bit wavy. I don't know yet.
It probably will, yeah. It should.
Hopefully. Yeah. And I'm still, in the middle of the yoke.
Yeah. And I think you're still in the middle of the second chart?
Yes, going to the, almost at
Towards
the
the end of the second chart, and then you still have to do the third chart. Yeah.
And I might be lucky enough to have a bit longer sleeves than you because mine's turning out a bit bigger because I don't know if you've got the same. I am knitting looser than you. Yeah. And I omitted the first part, so I don't know.
Oh yeah, you might end up with a little more yarn. And another thing I was thinking is the pullover again is fairly wide, so you could probably cast on fewer stitches under the arm, and maybe even add some decreases to your body. Unless you want a boxy style.
I don't know yet.
You can try my on.
Exactly. Again, I have the advantage of being able to...
Yeah. And another thing about top-down pullovers anyway, we could put a long cable in this and try it on. And we've done that before. We've done it several times just to make sure that things work out properly.
And we do it with that one eventually,
Yeah. And then you can change things. And if you decide you want it a bit smaller, then you can go longer. And if you want it more boxy style, then it'll end up a bit shorter. But if that's what you want, it's okay.
Probably not boxy style though, not with this one.
Yeah.
Okay,
and then the next project is something that we don't do very often together because I love knitting socks
and I hate knitting socks.
But she will still do it sometimes.
Yeah, I'm so lucky. I'm getting so many beautiful ones from her. I'm so glad that I have got a lot of socks now. And not enough though.
not as many as I do. Yeah, and the thing is, because I love knitting socks, I love wearing socks, I love having socks, I do have a whole lot of knitted socks. So on my German channel, I have special videos where I show off all the socks that I had at that point. And if you look at my videos, the socks that I've knit since then, I've decided I should stop knitting socks for myself.
So I'm the lucky one.
She's very happy to hear that. Some other people in my vicinity as well. But one of the knit-alongs that I'm running on my YouTube channel at the moment is for banana socks. The other one is for haramaki and hats. I think I mentioned that when we showed the hat. But the older one is for banana socks. And the funny thing about banana socks is that you don't have to knit a heel because of the way you put your knit and purl stitches. You don't knit the heel. You can knit for people where you don't know the exact shoe size. You can have them as house shoes at your home for guests. So there are so many good ways of using banana socks. By the way, I'm knitting another color of the black dragon yarn. So you can see I have lots of different colors, but also the black running throughout the sock. And this is... this would go to one of the children of one of my cousins. So they're not for me, but I love the color, so I really enjoy knitting them. And you took part in that knit along. I was quite surprised.
I don't remember why, but I think it's a interesting, it's a funny thing to do, and it's not that big. And I mean, it doesn't have a deadline. I don't know how long it would take.
And I think one of the good things about sock projects is what I like about them is they're small and portable.
You can just take them anywhere.
Yeah, and it doesn't have a complicated pattern. It doesn't have a heel, so you can actually take it with you anywhere, knit it anywhere without having to think too much.
And I changed the beginning.
Well, there's no proper pattern for the banana sock. It's just something that people came up with, and people do it differently. But I usually like to have ribbing on all my socks. You don't always, and you did
Hardly ever do.
Yeah, so you went straight into the pattern, and because the pattern sort of draws it together this way on the back, it sort of goes together this way. The top now has this interesting shape, which I really like for short socks.
Me too.
So with short socks, it's nice to have this little bit of height in the back, and sometimes it's done with short rows if you do shorty socks, just so that they won't slip into your shoe as easily, and you can sort of pull them up here. So I really like that effect on this. So maybe I'll do that with the next pair, because I want to knit at least one more pair of banana socks before I stop for now. And that's an idea. I think I'll try and do that. I want to use thicker yarn for that one. That should be interesting to see what that looks like. Okay.
Yeah, then
this almost done.
This will be the last one.
Okay. So if you've watched my videos, you should have seen my Decke thick blanket. It's one of my favorite blankets that I've knit so far. I knit 24 squares. Okay. And I only use leftover yarn, okay? And when I had all the squares done, I sewed them together, and I like to sew them together so they're not going in the same direction, but sort of on edge, so you have a new square
forming.
Yeah, forming from the colors. And I used the sock weight yarn held double, so that's why it's a thick blanket.
And I love this pattern so much. I've done quite a lot of them, like as baby blankets with 1 or 2 threads. And then I made, with the help of Kiko and friends, I made a big one as tablecloth for my Japanese table. And then I decided I wanted to have a super thick blanket for my bed on my
normal duvet.
On my normal duvet, yes. And I only thought of this quite recently, and it's already winter, it's already cold, so I'm really trying my best to be really quick with this. And to have it really thick, I've got 3 threads, and I chose, Kiko has got many grey colors from this Opal series, and I chose all the greys with blues, and it's just one big square.
Let's show a finished one.
Yeah, okay.
So when she does baby blankets, she often uses 2 strands of yarn and then just one big square. So they'll be usually a bit bigger than this one, and then it's already a baby blanket. You don't have to have several pieces that you sew together. But for your table, you did 4 pieces, and for this one,
it will be 6.
Yeah. So
here
the blanket will be 2
one.
squares wide. Let's turn this one around so they line up nicer.
Okay.
Because that's the way I like them to line up, so you form the new square.
Yeah.
So it'll be 2 squares wide and 3 squares long. And you already have 3 finished squares, so half the blanket is finished. Plus,
more than half, yeah.
Plus
already also more than half.
Yeah, so she's already decreasing stitches. This is square number 4, so I think next week you should be done.
Oh, I wished. I'm done with this one. But
yeah, definitely. And then you'll whip up the other 2, and then
And
I'll get to sew them together. Big surprise.
Very, very grateful for that. And that's the beautiful thing if you knit with thick yarns or take several strands, it's much quicker too. Yeah, looking forward to having that.
And I often sew things together for her because she doesn't like doing it, and that's why she knits the boring stuff for me. So
yeah, but I'm the lucky one with this.
Oh no, I feel lucky too. So we're quite a good team that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was quite a few of our sort of team projects or partner look projects that we've done so far. Some of them will reappear if we do another one next year. The last couple of years we always did that in winter, so that I could have it on my channel between Christmas and New Year, so that I could take a week off. And then the interesting thing will be to see next year which projects have we actually finished. Maybe
how did they turn out? Yeah,
did we rip out one or did we give it away? And which projects will we start until then? So yeah, I could imagine that to be another new
tradition.
That's the word.
Yeah.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.